Help me hit 7,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and share your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. Thank you. I never imagined life could change so quietly, so completely, without a single loud argument, without a single raised voice. My name is Ethan, I'm 38, and I was married to Claire for 12 years, or at least I thought I was. When we met, she was everything I thought I could hope for. Vibrant, clever, warm. She had this way of lighting up a room just by walking into it, and I, the quiet type, found that intoxicating. I wasn't flashy, I wasn't loud, but I had my life in order. Steady job, mortgage paid on time, car in decent shape, friends who respected me. Claire liked that. She told me I was dependable, that she could rely on me. And for the first several years I gave her everything I had, and she seemed to give it back. We had routines that felt like little sparks of magic. Sunday brunches, late-night movies, little notes hidden in my wallet or her purse, trips to the coast whenever we could steal a weekend. Life wasn't perfect, but it felt good, solid, safe, loving. That's why I was blindsided when the first cracks started to appear, slowly, so subtly I didn't even notice them at first. It began with little things. Claire would get defensive over small questions. Her smiles became rare, her laughter forced. She would leave the room when I came home from work just to avoid me, claiming she needed space, or that she was tired. At first, I told myself it was stress. The mortgage, the bills, her job at the marketing firm, sure, anyone would be exhausted. I told myself that I was being paranoid, that my mind was overthinking harmless signs. But then came the test I never saw coming. It was a Tuesday evening, one of those quiet nights where we were both home but barely talking. I was folding laundry in the bedroom, and she came in holding a small envelope. Her hands were shaking slightly, and for some reason, my stomach dropped before I even knew why. She handed it to me wordlessly. I opened it expecting maybe a bill, a note, something ordinary. Inside was a letter, written by her doctor. My eyes scanned the words, and I felt like the floor had fallen out from beneath me. The baby Claire had been carrying wasn't mine. Not biologically. The words jumped off the paper, mocking every year of trust, every late night spent comforting her, every plan we had made for the future. I didn't yell, I didn't cry, I didn't even know how to respond. I just held the letter in my hands, feeling an emptiness I had never known before. I wanted to ask her why, what had happened, how it could be possible. But she didn't meet my eyes. She muttered something about mistakes and not being ready to tell me, and left the room. My chest felt hollow. The walls seemed to close in around me. For days, I went through the motions of life. Work, bills, the carpool, my friends. But everything felt muted, gray, distant. I tried to confront her, carefully, calmly, without anger. Claire, I said one evening, we need to talk. About the baby. About us. She looked at me, her eyes glossy, like she was about to cry, but also like she was holding back a secret she was afraid I'd understand. Ethan, she said quietly, there's nothing to say. I didn't know how to tell you. I never wanted to hurt you. Her words felt like a knife wrapped in silk. Polite, soft, almost caring, but lethal all the same. I couldn't reconcile the woman I loved with the truth in my hands. The betrayal was slow, insidious. It wasn't a scream, a fight, or a betrayal caught in the act. It was years of illusions built carefully, and in one letter, they all fell apart. I remember sitting in our living room that night, staring at the framed pictures of us on the walls. The vacations, the birthdays, the silly little moments frozen in time, and feeling like a stranger in my own house. That's when I realized that staying, pretending, asking questions, hoping for explanations, was killing me. Slowly, day by day, I had been living a life constructed on lies. The person I thought I knew, the life I thought I had, didn't exist anymore. I didn't pack my bags immediately. I didn't make a scene. Couldn't. The shock had frozen me, and when I finally moved, it was deliberate, quiet, almost surgical. I left our home one night, carrying only a small bag, no anger, no words. I drove through the streets of my town, past familiar shops and parks, past neighbors who waved but didn't know. For the first time in years, I felt invisible yet profoundly free. I didn't have a plan. I didn't know where I was going. I just knew I needed distance. From Claire, from the life I had built, from the hollow memories that now felt like shards in my chest. I ended up in a small town a few hours away, renting a modest apartment, taking a job in a warehouse that kept my hands busy and my mind distracted. I didn't call friends. I didn't answer old messages. I didn't want explanations or apologies or anything that tied me to the past. Time passed. Days blurred into months, months into years. I buried myself in work, learned the streets, the small local diners, the faces of people who didn't know me, and slowly, I began to feel like myself again. I still carried the hurt, of course. The betrayal wasn't something that just disappeared, but the constant ache of deception began to dull. I discovered a kind of peace in solitude. I discovered that I could exist without the life I had lost, without the expectations and the pain. And then, out of nowhere, she found me. It started with a letter slipped under my apartment door. No name, just a simple piece of paper with a number and the words, "It's Claire. I need to see you." My heart stopped. For a moment, I thought about throwing it away, burning it, pretending it didn't exist. But curiosity, a dangerous curiosity, won. I called the number, my hand shaking, my voice steady only in practice. Her voice was quiet, tentative, and a little shaky. "Ethan, I know you've built a life. I didn't mean to disappear." I cut her off. I didn't want excuses. I didn't want apologies. "Claire," I said, "I'm listening, but I need to know why now. After all these years." She paused, and then she started to speak, slowly, almost like peeling layers off a wound she didn't know how to heal. She told me she had made a mistake, yes. She admitted the truth about the baby, about the years she had hidden, about the guilt she had carried. She said she had tried to reach me at first, but I was gone. And then the fear of rejection, the shame, the embarrassment. It all became a wall she couldn't climb over. Listening to her, I realized something important. The pain she carried wasn't my fault, but the actions, the choices were. Her betrayal had shaped me, yes, but her suffering now didn't undo what had happened. I could feel the anger bubble up, the hurt that had been buried under routine and survival, but I also felt a strange calm. I was no longer the man who would blindly forgive. I was no longer the man whose life could be dictated by her mistakes. I agreed to meet her, but only for one conversation, one chance to face what had been left unresolved. We sat across from each other in a small cafe downtown, surrounded by strangers, anonymous to the world but intimately tied to each other's past. She looked older, not in a bad way, just different, more fragile, more human, more aware of her own failings. We spoke for hours. She explained the circumstances that had led to the baby not being mine, the feelings she had suppressed, the choices she had made in fear. I asked questions. Some answers were painful, some were hard to hear, but there was no yelling, no accusations, no dramatics, just the quiet unraveling of years of deception. By the time we parted that evening, I realized I had made a choice. I could choose to let the past consume me, to allow her return to drag me back into a world of pain. Or I could choose to leave it behind, carry the lessons, and move forward on my own terms. And I chose the latter. I walked away from that cafe feeling lighter than I had in over a decade. I understood now that some betrayals leave scars. Yes, but they also carve spaces for growth, for clarity, for self-respect. I wasn't going to erase the past, and I wasn't going to pretend it didn't happen. But I could live my life in a way that didn't give her power over my happiness anymore. The next few months were quiet, but in that quiet, I rebuilt myself. I reconnected with friends who had drifted away, took a few small trips on my own, and even began dating again. But this time with boundaries, with awareness, with patience. I learned that love could be cautious and careful, and that it could coexist with respect for oneself. Years later, I still think about Claire. Not every day, not with bitterness, but sometimes with curiosity. I wonder if she regrets, if she thinks about the life we shared, if she understands what she lost. And yet, even as I ponder, I know that the life I have now, the peace, the freedom, the quiet joy, is something no betrayal could take from me. I disappeared once because the truth was unbearable. But now I live openly, fully, and with the knowledge that the choices we make define us far more than the wrongs done to us. And if Claire ever comes back again, I'll listen. But I'll listen as the man I am now, not the man I once was, stronger, clearer, and entirely in control of my own story.